Hello everyone, it's Julie Hutchison here on day 17 of Communication Fest from Think Be Do Leadership. And Communication Fest is 30 top tips of communication for impact and influence to increase your impact and influence in your business or in your role, wherever you are, and even at home. So welcome, it's day 17, and today we are talking about just 17. And if you're old enough, you will know that there used to be a kids magazine or a 17-year-olds magazine, and we all thought was very cool. But I don't think the word just is really very cool. And I want to talk about today the danger of the word just, because it's powerful and it's dangerous and it can make a huge difference to the outcome of your communications with people, because it has such inferences, is that the right word, that makes people feel so useless sometimes that it means that people don't do what you want to do, or they don't perform when you think they ought to, because of something that you said that relates to this word just. So I want to dig in a little bit. So if you're listening live, please say hello. Pop a comment in. If you're listening on replay, then also say hello, but put hashtag replay so I can check on your comments, because it's really good to speak to real human beings, I think. So if you're here, please say hi. I can see one or two of you. So today what we're going to talk about is the use of the word just, and how it feels to people and what it does to people. Oh, hello, Claire. Hello, lovely. Nice to see you. So the word just, imagine this. If maybe you drive a car, hopefully you do. And hopefully you do it pretty well and you're fairly proficient at that. But remember back to when you didn't know how to drive a car, and the thought of going to learn to drive the car. Now, when you were a kid, you looked at car driving and you thought, oh, that looks cool. I can do that. And you were unaware or unconsciously incompetent, let's say, not knowing what you didn't know, and you were more than happy to think about driving a car. But as soon as you start taking your lessons, something comes over us. There's this grim realization that actually it's not as easy as it looks. And actually there's gears, there's steering, there's brakes, there's mirrors, looking behind you and looking and not crashing into somebody, and all of those things that make it much more complicated than we first thought. And so we then have that conscious incompetence. So we're going around that learning cycle of conscious incompetence. And what that means is that we now know what we don't know. So we don't know how to work that steering wheel, even though we know it's there. We don't know how to work the brakes and the gears, even though we now realize that lever thing that your mum or dad used to keep moving is relevant, and I need to know what to do with it. And how do I coordinate all that? And it's much more complicated than you first thought. So you have this moment of like despair, or what I do, of like, oh God, this is really difficult. And the same applies to if you go into a new job, or you start a new training program, or you're going to go for a degree, or you want to do your GCSEs, or whatever it is. That's a bit old for GCSEs. But whatever it is, and we want to do something new, you go, oh, I'm going to learn to sail a boat. That looks easy enough. And then you realize, so that's called conscious incompetence. And it's not until you start to learn how to do it that you suddenly then get to this stage where you're like, oh, actually, I'm consciously competent. Where it's like, okay, I know how to drive the car. I can pass my test. But actually, I'm still like clinging to the steering wheel, and I'm like thinking about every moment, and I'm changing gear, and I'm looking in the mirror, signal remover, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm checking, and I'm worrying. So I pass, but I'm clunky. Okay, so that's the next stage. And then after that, there's you, which is somebody who can drive, knows how to drive. And then when you're on your way to work, you drive the car. If we ever drive our cars anymore, go anywhere, but you drive your car and you get to work and you think to yourself, how did I get here? Because I don't remember driving the car, because the information and the thinking has gone to the back of your brain. It knows how to do it. You're on, like it might say, autopilot in some respects. You can listen to the radio, have a conversation with the person next to you, and still pay attention to a degree. I know some people that can't do that. I went to Blackpool with a girl once who basically looked at me the whole time instead of looking at the road. That wasn't a pleasant experience. You know who you are. And so, but we're now moved from conscious competence back into, like I said, unconscious competence, i.e. we don't think about it. We're just good. We know how to drive the car or do the thing that we're doing. Okay, so when you get good at your job, you're pretty cool. So if you're an accountant, you don't have to think, how do I add up all the time? Or what was that tax law that I had to do? Or something like that. You kind of know it. Yeah. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because when you communicate with people, something that you want them to do, so it's quite specific today, but something that you want them to do and you want them to take it on, you want to delegate something or you want them to take it on, when you are unconsciously competent, then we have a horrible tendency to forget how difficult it was when we were consciously incompetent. Okay, when we looked at it and went, oh my god, I've got to learn how to do the accounts, or I've got to learn how to drive that police car for me and Claire, or any of those things, or I've got to do my science or inspector's exam. Because we've lost that. We know the rules, we know the ways, we know all these things about it, and it's just within us. Yeah. But then you've got like Bob in the office he's new, and you need to delegate something to him, but he's never done it before. And the problem is what we often do when we communicate what we want Bob to do is we say, oh, could you just do, now I'm going to think about it now. I've got to think of a way. Oh, can you just drive that car and take it? Yes, let's say we work in a garage. Can you just drive that car because customer A wants to pick it up at the other place? And if Bob doesn't drive a car, then he's going to go, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, he's going to be, well, he was probably unconsciously incompetent. He didn't know what he didn't know. He was quite cocky probably at that point. And then suddenly you've given him a job or a task to do. He has no idea how to do it. But then he's at that point where he knows he doesn't know. And you've just said this word, just, okay? Can you just go and do that for me? Okay, can you just drive that car? Could you just make all the teas in the whole office? Or could you just ring that customer and tell them that their order's going to be late? Or could you just, I don't know now, ring Geraldine in the other office and ask her if what she wants about something? Yeah, all of these things, if you use the word just because you don't find this a problem, this thing, then what happens, thank you, Claire, for your comment. She says it's so true. Yes, it is, because it's just like when you hear it, you're like, oh, God. But if you say that because to you there's no problem, what you're doing is you're minimizing the difficulty, and you think, oh, yeah, that'll take 10 minutes. That's the other thing. You think it takes 10 minutes when it doesn't. It takes that person 3 hours to do. That's the other thing. And so if you're thinking, what was his name? Bob, I said, oh, he's not very effective. Well, he's not effective because you have just made him feel probably about this big, and you've minimized this task that actually is huge in his mind, because he's now suddenly recognized he is consciously incompetent. He doesn't know how to do it, but he now knows there's gears, he knows there's a steering wheel, and he knows there's brakes and mirrors that he doesn't know how to do. He doesn't know how to apply it. So if you apply this to anything that you ask people to do, you're going to overwhelm them. You're going to make them feel like, oh God, I know I ought to know this then, because he's just said or she's just said just, and I feel a bit rubbish, and I feel like a bit of an imposter, and I feel a bit stupid because they've said it's easy and I don't feel like it's easy. I feel really pathetic now, and I feel like I can't do it. But what I also feel is that I can't say I don't know how to do it. And this is where the problem comes, because if they then feel like you've minimized this and therefore they don't want to say, it's like the emperor's new clothes, isn't it? So that he isn't wearing any clothes, but he doesn't want us, nobody wants to say it because they don't want to get told off. They don't want to get made to look stupid. So nobody says it. They don't say, I don't know how to do that. Can you show me? Can you break that down for me? They don't do that because you've made them feel like they can't ask. So in terms of communication, which is where we're going, you've kind of like blocked off the communication by the use of this kind of word. Okay. And so, Claire says, only realise you use it when you listen to my lives. Yeah, well, really. Yeah, and we do. We use them. We use these words without even recognising, and that's the whole point about what we're doing with Communication Fest, is to recognise what's working and what's not, and to look at the effects of the things that we say, and if we don't like the effects of it, or we're thinking that's not useful, change it, because your staff will really thank you, and the people around you will thank you, because you don't make them feel small, and you change it so that you recognize the difficulty and the levels of what you're actually giving somebody, and you allow them to understand it at their level, and then you can break it down. So you might say, oh, can we really need you to drive that car to the next place, without the just, obviously, and then ask the question, how comfortable do you feel with that? Do you need me? And this is the next one. Is do you need me to break it down? Yeah, because if you ask that question, then you're opening up the conversation. You're making it easier for somebody to go, yes, please, without feeling like a complete idiot. Yeah, I was going to say Muppet. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore. Anyway, I like Muppets. So if you're saying, oh, can you just do this? Just stop yourself and say, thank you, Claire, for that clarification. Yours lies, not mine. I probably do as well. And we all do it. It's just a language thing. But when we get an understanding of what we're doing and start watching ourselves a little bit, and asking, did that work? Then we can change it. Yeah. So instead of saying, can you just do that? Then stop yourself and say, I would like you to do this. How comfortable you feel with the job as a whole, or would you like me to break this down? Do I need, and we talked about chunking, another one, I'm drawing my little diagram now in my head. Do we need to chunk it into smaller pieces? Okay. So for example, when we drive in the car, you just drive the car is the big chunk. Yeah. And underneath that is steering, brakes, mirrors, what have we got? Acceleration, parking is a whole chunk. Yeah. And you can say, like, how comfortable do you feel with this? And they say, well, I'm not entirely sure. Okay. How comfortable do you feel with these chunks? And do we need to train you in these things? And that makes that person much more likely to say, actually, I'm all right with that, but I'm not very good at this. So I can do the steering bit, but I need some gear practice. Yeah. So translate that into your business. When you're asking somebody to do a job, and then you break it down, you say, how comfortable do you feel? Would you like some help with that? Do I need to break it down? They might say, oh, well, I'm good with that spreadsheet thing, but I'm not good with the way we need to do the email or the system or something like that. So it allows people to be more open and honest about how much they know and they don't know. And it also helps you to realize that when you are going to be training people, or delegating to people, you do need to break things down anyway. So obviously we're coming at it from the communication point of view here, but then it means that, yes, if people aren't sure, you need to break it down anyway and communicate how to learn to do something as well. So that's going to make it useful for you anyway. Okay, so you can see that the danger of the word of just is huge, because you're going to put people off, you're going to make them feel small, and you're going to make them feel like they don't want to work with you because they can't be honest with you because you're much better than they are. So you put yourself on a pedestal, which we don't want to do. Okay, so there's other things about about this minimization of something, and let's just go back to just drive that car. Sometimes when we say that, but even if they did know how to do it, it's, oh, could you just do that? Is we don't always recognize the amount of work something is. Could you just go and take that over there? Or could you just do this for me? And what you're actually doing is loading people up. So again, we need to think about that word, and recognize that it has consequences for people being unable to say no to you. And they should be able to say no to you if it's going to have some consequence to whether they can achieve something else. So again, it stops people from being honest in their answers to you, because it makes it feel like you're assuming that it's not going to take them very long. So if they turn around and say, oh, I can't do that, then they probably won't, because it's quite hard. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So I've gone on far too long. So what I'm saying is please don't use just as much as most of us do. And if you're going to, then just think about, how is that person going to react to that? How is that person going to feel if I make myself feel pretty cool, but I make them feel pretty small? Okay, thank you very much, Claire, for your lovely comments. So this is day 17 of the communication tips. So please feel free to watch all of the 30 days and go back. They're all there. Claire says, so is another word that I hear overused. Yeah, so for a different reason. Maybe we should talk about that another day, Claire. But so is another word that is overused. Perhaps not quite as dangerous as just, but yeah. And it's all about what is the consequence of the word that we're talking about. So maybe we'll dig into that one too. Thank you, Claire. That's brilliant. Yeah, so if you are enjoying these and you're finding them useful, but you're maybe wondering like, okay, that's great, Julie, but how am I going to implement this? And I want to have more impact and influence. Then please do book in a game call with me, which I'm going to put in the link here in the chat. There you go. That's a link to book in a call to have a discussion about how we can help you to improve your influence and impact and your communication for you and your team and your business. Because when you get the communication right, you get the team right. When you get the team right, you build your business. So it has a maximum impact as you possibly can to make sure that people can communicate in a really good way. So give me a shout. There's the link. If you can't see the link for any reason, then please feel free to message me and we can book you in a call and tell you about how you can be part of our program. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claire. I will enjoy my day. Thank you so much. And you too. Lots of good wishes for the weekend. Thanks. Bye-bye.